Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller, and our special guest today is State Representative Fabian Basabe. We got it right?
Yes, sir. How are you?
Good,
Thanks
good.
for having me.
Thanks for being here. So you've been a state representative almost for 2 years.
Yes.
What drove you initially to do that?
So it's actually an interesting story. I never thought in a million years I would enter the world of politics. You know, I was raised right. No religion, no politics at the dinner table. And a friend of mine actually was going to run for office. And he did the meet and greet with the consultants, and they scared him out of the race. And I said, that's ridiculous. This is somebody who's done nothing but good on every board, on every nonprofit, raised money, done good things. I mean, this person should be in office. And he was afraid that it would hurt his business, the cancel culture, for how he's politically aligned. The cancel culture of my district, which is a heavy left-leaning district, would affect his business. And he had to think of his many employees that would lose their jobs if anything happened to the company. I was so furious about a good person being scared away from politics. I went down to the elections place. I looked up whoever had the most amount of money running unopposed, because that happens often in South Florida. And I just decided to match it and campaign like hell and win.
So this cancel culture affects so many people across the board. Someone is very upfront and someone is on a very subconscious level, because we see as things get nastier, and they're pretty nasty at this point. Hopefully come November, that'll be different, right? There are a lot of good people that say, I'm not going to risk things, like your friend who listened to the consultants. Of course, they're being paid by the other side.
Of course.
Right? And then they give up. That's a common strategy for people to do that. But that was back in 2019 and 20. When did you get a glimpse of, gee, I like to do that?
So I primarily wanted to just run a hell of a campaign. I campaigned on real issues with real solutions. I educated myself among my community members. I was out there every day talking, getting to know people, what was important to them, and learning from them, right? I mean, I never had all the answers. I never pretended that I would even know what I was doing if I was elected. But I was willing to learn. I was willing to listen. I was especially willing to listen to people with different ideas and ideologies than myself, and hopefully try to find a common sense middle ground that we can agree on, so that I can help people come back together and bridge the divide.
But when did you first go, I want to do it? Not in 2020 or 2009, before that, way before that.
Oh, never.
Never. It's just like you had this brainstorm
Never.
Never. Hey, let's try that.
Absolutely. The day that I decided to, I got in the car, I drove straight down, I signed up to run for office. I got back in my car, I drove a little bit, I pulled over on the side of the road. I sat there for about 40 minutes and I said, what did I just do? Because you sign these papers, you're basically now public domain. You sign your life away. You are now free reign for anybody to say and do anything towards you. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's no protections for public servants.
Correct. And if it turned out to be awful, somebody might say, well, it was impulsive, so it didn't turn out. But in this case, it was that idea, I'm going to go do that. And what was it like the moment when you signed the paperwork and go, oh, I'm in? What was that like for you?
Like I said, I pulled over in the car and I said, oh my God, my parents are going to kill me. Okay. You know, I mean, I've had a fair share of fun in my life. And I always tell people that try to look me up and research me, you can't always believe what you read. And perception is certainly not reality. But the fun stuff is true. And I've done a lot of exciting things, all good-hearted, well-intentioned. But I've now opened myself, and more importantly, it's a responsibility, right? Because I've not only opened myself, but they're vicious. There's no honor in the battle that is the opposition that you face today in politics. So they go after your family, your friends, businesses. It's really gross. When I decided to do this, I didn't take any of that into account, and it might have been the most well-intentioned, irresponsible thing I did. But I was on a mission. I wanted to prove a point that if people ran a clean campaign, if they campaigned on real solutions, and if they had a common sense center message, they would resonate with people, and they would get the people civically engaged to vote, which is a huge problem in this nation. Less people vote in this country than work for the federal government. That's an interesting statistic I learned along the way. And it really worked, you know. And also I wanted to prove to my son that we still live in a country that if you put in the honest, hard work, you will get the results.
So that must have been very fulfilling when you knew that those little eyes were always watching you, and it's something they're going to remember forever. And so, Dad, you better do a good job because I'm watching you.
You know, when election day came, I have to admit I was fearful because I knew I gave it my all, and I know that I'm in it for the right reasons, and it would be the right thing for the people that I be elected. But you don't know my district. I mean, there's never been a Republican to win ever. Serious Republicans don't even run in my district. It's impossible to win. All the game is rigged against you, right? So, and then when I saw the count on TV that evening, and I had a small watch party, just my close friends, I was preparing, you know, a speech to tell my son, listen, we gave it our best, but we don't give up. Maybe we try again, or we try something else. And then I was winning. And I swear at one point I was like, oh my God, stop counting, you know, stop counting the votes. Because I was leaving for Europe the next day. I mean, that's where I summer. I've got plans. I didn't expect to do this. And then I won. And that night was so impactful for me because I just realized that my life changed and I now have an opportunity to do something different.
So let's talk about some of the things that you were able to get done in your first 2 years, and some things you'd like to see happen during the rest of 2024 and 25.
So they say if you want to make change, you get elected. But that certainly doesn't mean that you get a magic wand the very next day, right? You've got to pay your dues. I'm entering in a world that I was not familiar with, people that I have to earn their respect, and also learn the game a bit. It was a difficult beginning because, you know, and I was self-funded, so I didn't have any strings attached, and I didn't have mentors in this. But a lot of people work their way up to a position like I attained. And they at least kind of know the players. I knew no one, and I didn't enter politics to make friends. Surprisingly, though, and this was probably the best moment of it all. As I got to know everybody, I made some real great friends up there, and through the process, and I realized there's a lot of really good, well-intentioned people in office today, and the good outweigh the bad, which means there's still hope. And that's worth fighting for, and that's worth staying in this game for a little bit longer.
You know, in today's political environment, it is upsetting for most people. So it's nice to hear somebody saying that there's hope out there, and that's not a candidate. Right? There's hope that things are going to get better, and there's people that are willing to work and negotiate with people on the other side of the aisle, and even people that are sitting next to you. So give us one or two of the projects that you would like to work on.
So a lot of people don't even know, I didn't even at the time, what a state rep does. Your main priority is to bring back funding for the district. Mm-hmm. Now, my district is very unique because it's intentionally been marketed as very left. There's a lot of common sense center people in my district. But when you intentionally pander to the far left extreme, you isolate yourself from the state funding and those partnerships. Now, everyone says in the game of politics, but people don't realize this community service effort has become a business, and for a very long time now. So what they want to do is isolate you from, we are the largest tax donor district in the nation. My resort taxes from Miami Beach alone, one of the 10 cities that I represent, pays the most into the state than any other city, more than Vegas, more than, I think Orlando, because of Disney, pays more than us, but that's a separate animal for me. And we don't get our fair share. We hardly get any of that money back. So my main role is to reestablish those partnerships.
A donor city, so to speak.
We're a donor city, but we are the donor city. And in the last man standing.
And we appreciate it here in South Miami, so thank you very much.
And we're the last man standing of a state in this nation, right? So there's nowhere to go after us. We've got to protect, and we've got to take care of what we've got. But in reestablishing those partnerships, in my first term, the people were able to see what working together can really accomplish. Now, there's a lot of people that didn't want to work with me off the bat.
I mean, you show up there one day and you go, hey, I'm here.
I have a city manager, the former of Miami Beach, never sat with me once. County mayor, never sat with me once. Repeated attempts, repeated calls. They can't afford to work with me. They can't afford to reestablish those partnerships because they'd rather isolate us from state funding, force us into a relationship with federal funding, And that has no state oversight, which means that's just an open faucet of funding with zero accountability. And we all say it, we also see it, and more these days, it's very believable. It's almost in your face and offensive. This is money that comes in and never goes where it's supposed to go. And that's the game of politics. They distract you on the social issues. They bring your attention to national big issues that have nothing to do with your local politics. And they get you to vote one way. They're distracting you up here while they're just ripping out the land right from underneath you.
So one of the things that constantly comes up that we hear is, what's the state going to do about, number one was the price of home insurance, of property insurance. Is there any real relief? And if there is, what does that look like in a year from now or 2 years from now?
So you'll start to see, if you really look into the work and the results of that work, which the media isn't very friendly in putting that out there, which is awful, right? Because you have a lot of people that are very scared and everyone's suffering now financially. People can't afford these distractions, and it's dishonorable what happens now. The level of integrity in journalism is just below the ground. Present company excluded. And what we've done in the state is, I appreciate the platform, So what the state has done, and we have to realize that South Florida is solely responsible for the insurance crisis of the entire state. My district in particular is responsible for creating an uninsurable market. We've allowed, through not enforcing laws on the books, mismanaged HOAs, criminal activity, fraud. We've allowed bad projects. We've been building on top of broken pipes. I mean, we are a disaster. And we have not invested in hardening our infrastructure, in resiliency efforts. We haven't done anything. Everything underground is so old and so ruined. I mean, we are falling apart. We are literally sinking from the middle. It's insane. So the state has addressed that with a lot of tort reform. We've done away with the one-way billing. We've also started to invest, especially in my district. And that's something I greatly appreciate about the partnerships that I've created for my district and my colleagues in Tallahassee. We have the largest resiliency platform from the governor. We have record funding for, we have a wastewater grants bill that was actually my bill that got absorbed into the DEP package, funded at $200 million. That money is now recurring to address, all those broken pipes leaking into our waterways, causing all the backup sewage. Can you believe in the richest district in the nation, I still have septic? I mean, it's insane and it's disgusting.
There are 105,000 plus septic tanks in Miami-Dade County. I assume that includes the cities. And there are only 5,000 of those that are being addressed now.
There you go.
And it's a problem.
It's a problem. Now, on top of that, we have a program called MySafeFloridaHome.gov, which has been available for over a year now. And this is money that's being put into your pockets to address hardening issues of your homes. So hurricane windows, redo your roof, whatever it is. And you have to go on the website. It's a first come, first serve. The program was renewed again. There's a lot of money available. And now this year, we also got into play a pilot program, which is going to address the same program, but for condos. And we're going to work with the HOAs. We've also expanded the DBPR. We fully funded them. That was an agency that was just non-existent forever. They had like 3 people working for them.
That's the part that
approved and funded.
For they do the condos.
Well, they're the Department of Better Business Bureau. So they monitor bad business. And the cause of these issues, right, are private entities. Your HOAs are private entities elected by your residents. You're causing your own problem.
Yes.
So we now have, and a lot of people are being taken advantage of, especially our senior population, which is the most offensive thing to me. These are people that have worked their whole lives. They've never asked for a handout. They've paid their dues, they've worked, they've saved, and now they live off their pensions in a city they discovered first. And they're being priced out of their communities because of poor management. And all of this is part of a greater agenda, right? I mean, I represent America's Riviera. We are the most attractive real estate in the world, and we have a lot of opportunity for vultures. And if you notice, a lot of the development projects, our current buildings are being bought out by, outside interest LLCs that are, buying up our units and hoping to displace our seniors, move people out, get rid of our old community, sell off these buildings. Our local politicians are acting like brokers without a license for some of the most important real estate in the world, while they distract you on issues like, shall we transition children? It's crazy what's going on.
So other than property insurance, what are some of the other things that you'd like to work on and that the state has some control over?
So I think that the environment is very important. I have a district that likes to market climate change as the most impactful thing upcoming. We are literally going to be underwater very soon. And I don't care how you label it. I don't care if you call it climate change. I'm not a climate change denier. I don't care what it's called. The future is coming. And we need to take proactive measures to be ready for it. And Mother Nature is angry with us. We have not been respectful. So I've been focused a lot on what we can do to create opportunities for comprehensive plans. My cities need to work together so that we can have a comprehensive plan to responsibly redevelop, fix what we've got, and face the future. The waterways are very important to me. I worked on some bills that address a lot of the derelict boats that are polluting our seas. I have homeless encampments on the water. I have illegal Airbnbs in my backyards. The homeless population is very important to me. I think that it's inhumane how we've allowed these unhoused members of our community to exist for so long. And I worked on legislation with some wonderful people. That's Bill 7021 that I co-sponsored, which finally addresses the real issue, because we have wonderful resources in this state, and our unhoused community can get help if they want help. If they recognize they need help and they want it, it's there. We have tremendous programs. But the people that are left on the street, they suffer from mental illness and substance abuse issues. And what a lot of the current or past programs would allow for is you get them on a bus, you process them through something, they don't qualify, they end up right back on the street, right where they came from, taxpayer dollars are being spent, nothing's getting resolved. What we've done now is we've expanded under the Baker Act a 6-month period where we can, and the state has invested $50 million in this initiative to start. And we are now giving these people real help, real diagnosis, real treatment, detoxification, psychologist treatment, whatever it is, to find out where they are, get them clear, and help them get to a place where they can understand what they want to do next. And then we get them into something to help them move over and be productive members of society.
Miami-Dade County is down about 180 beds in the last couple of years for Baker Act patients. So now if all the beds are filled, they send them up to Broward County. Now, I don't know who pays for that stuff, but to say a county of 300 million, over 3 million people here, and we have to send people out of Miami-Dade County because we're not doing enough here.
That's no longer. The state has intervened on this, and in the same bill, another bill, 1365, we addressed that. Homeless encampments are no longer legal. You may not be taking over our public spaces, but in fact, now cities are required by state law to provide designated areas where they have food, water, protection. We had a lady who was murdered on our streets in her sleep recently, within the last 30 days. It's not safe out there, especially for people who can't defend themselves. So we now have resources, also money available to require cities to address those needs and provide those safe spaces. And a lot of people mention that there are lesser beds available. I've been to some of these facilities, and I always am able to find beds.
Good. I wrote a piece recently about my lesson at the stoplight. I'm sitting there, and as I'm thinking this whole through, remember it's a minute and a half. Here he comes. He's going to want money. Are you going to give him any money? You're not going to give money. Are you just going to reach in your pocket, whatever it is, you're going to give it to him? Or do you want to, and I'm talking to myself, or are you going to give him coins? I don't want to touch him. What am I going to do? Am I going to give him a bill? What about this? What about that? I'm having this whole conversation. It turns out to be a 500-piece story. And then as I end the story, I said, oh, the light just turned green. Now I'm on to my next lesson. And so there's so many lessons for all of us to learn about seeing that and experiencing some of what they go through. And if you can do it, you might look a little differently at it. And it used to be people say, oh, they could go get a job. Really? you going to hire them that? Don't they need to get in some program so they can get cleaned up? They can learn to work at, a lot of them work in restaurants. And we as a community have to do more to try to protect them.
We do. And I'm really proud of this legislation. I think it's going to be transformative for these people who are just vulnerable, suffering members of our community. And it's time that we did something, and we did. And I think it's going to be something that people will, now that it's in play and they see the results of it, very proud of the legislature.
A few months ago, there were some kids out partying on a boat, and they dumped
I saw that.
Dozens and dozens of junk. A couple garbage cans full of junk. I'm so happy that they got caught. Is that a state function to watch that? That's not a county function.
Well, the state makes the laws,
yes, and
the laws are on the books, and it's up to the cities to enforce them.
Yeah.
And you can't decide what laws you want to enforce. They're there for a reason. And I actually don't appreciate the fact that we have to constantly be creating new laws. We had a civilized society once upon a time. We don't need more laws. And granted, there are some that need to be tweaked and updated, and that happens. And there's, a lot of intelligent people and important stakeholders that, give us their opinions, and we work hard on that. But what those kids did, I wanted to arrest their parents. Who's raising these kids? Who taught them that was okay?
You could see some of the kids were laughing. Oh, look, they dumped it all over. My grandkids have kayaks, and they live on a canal near downtown, not down in Coral Gables. And when I asked them about keeping the waterways clean, they said, so we can see the manatees, Grandpa. We need to take care of this. We brought them right in here. We had a conversation about it. So at a very young age, they're learning. You don't dump stuff like that because it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
There were some recent reports about plastics, being little particles winding up in men. I'm sure it was women, they just haven't tested them yet. So all that stuff, there is a huge, huge impact for all of us on how we recycle or don't recycle, or how we litter or dump things. But let's talk again about things to be recycled. What can the state do so that we can get more vendors that want to buy our recycled stuff out of Miami-Dade County? Because you can find this hard to believe that those little plastic bags we get at the stores are not recyclable with the Miami-Dade County vendors. They don't do it. All those bags we get from the grocery stores are not recycled.
So I actually had a discussion with the former mayor of one of my cities the other day about this specific subject. I don't see a bill like that actually moving through. I think some time ago it was attempted. But what we can do is request paper bags.
Yep.
That's an immediate solution. Educate our communities on how we can all civically be engaged in requiring what's right.
And so the demand will drop for the plastic bags?
The demand will drop, and they'll stop buying the plastic bags. They'll stop stocking up stores with them. I always ask for a paper bag at every store.
When I go to the drugstores, I say, I don't need a bag. Give me my receipt, because I don't want to be busted on the way out. Because I know what I'm going to do with the bag. It's going to wind up in a dump.
I also proposed a bill this session with a wonderful lady who happens to be on the Democrat side. Her name is Marie Woodson, and I always tell her she's my favorite on the crazy side. And we did a bottle recycling bill, a buyback bill, which a lot of states have. And I think it's a capitalist approach to, a big problem that we have. And we worked hard at it. We got a little sabotaged from our Democrat counterpart in the Senate. They didn't file their part on the Senate side, so our bill didn't make it anywhere. But it's something that should definitely be revisited. But a lot of it is education.
Yes.
How are you raised at home? And education starts at home.
Yes. So people can find out more about you. You're very pleasant, easy to get along with. You seem to be pretty bright, so people should consider you. And they can go, again, find out all about you. And remember, folks, vote early, all right? When you get that ballot, don't wait. Just fill it out and go down. Your last day of voting is November 5th.
And if you'd like to meet me, I'll be probably at the Miami Beach City Hall.
Okay.
And I'll be all over. And if anyone would like to reach out to me, my phone number is on the website at FabianBasabe.com. I always encourage everyone, follow my social media. I put a lot of time into the content so people can get to know me better.
State Representative, thank you so much.
Good
luck to you. Continued success. Again, folks, check them out, and we appreciate you tuning in. Have a great day, and many thanks to